So you saw the headlines, maybe scroll past another outrage. But we need to actually look at what happened during the Trump administration's immigration policies. The real wreckage left on individual lives. We're not talking about abstract debates here. We're diving into the human cost pulled straight from reports and, the victims' own stories. Our job here is simple: to understand just how far this went and what it really, truly meant for people.
And what emerges isn't just like a few isolated incidents. It's a deeply troubling pattern, a real pattern.
Yeah. Okay, let's unpack this with a story that honestly made my blood boil. José Hermosillo.
Right.
19 years old, born and raised in Albuquerque, New Mexico, an American citizen, full stop.
Okay. An American kid.
An American kid. He's visiting family in Tucson, Arizona, gets turned around walking near the Border Patrol headquarters, not trying to sneak anywhere, just lost near their damn office, and they arrest him April 8th.
Just walking while brown, basically.
Yeah, seems like it. And they held him for 10 days. 10 days they stole from this kid.
What's particularly disturbing is the official explanation that came after. I mean, the Department of Homeland Security claimed Hermosillo approached them.
Yeah.
Said he was Mexican, admitted to entering the country illegally, and even wanted to deport himself. It's a narrative that strains credulity, to say the least.
Strains credulity. It's a goddamn fairy tale.
Yeah.
And then they trot out this affidavit they claim he signed. But here's the kicker. Jose is illiterate. He can't read or write. His girlfriend, Grace Hernandez, she spelled out. If he did sign it, he doesn't know how to read or nothing. He doesn't know how to read. He doesn't really understand. He says yes to everything. So he could have done it without knowing what it was. They might have pressured a disabled American kid into signing a false confession.
That raises such serious questions about coercion and, well, due process, any semblance of it. And it directly contradicts Hermosillo's own account. He repeatedly stated from the very beginning that he was a U.S. citizen.
Right. He said, I told them I was a U.S. citizen, but they don't listen to me. They just didn't listen.
And the fact that court documents filed just 2 days after his arrest, like 2 days, already noted his claim of U.S. citizenship shows they knew. They absolutely knew.
They knew. They were aware of his assertion, yet they kept him locked up for over a week.
Unbelievable.
It wasn't until his family finally got his birth certificate and Social Security card to them that a judge finally dismissed the case on April 17th. 10 days.
10 days.
10 days of his life ripped away because they refused to believe him or do the bare minimum of checking. Just check the damn document.
And there are also inconsistencies in where this arrest even occurred. DHS claimed it was in Tucson, near their headquarters, but court documents mention at or near Nogales, which is like over an hour south, right on the actual border.
An hour away.
Yeah. And Hermosillo denies ever being in Nogales. This discrepancy suggests a troubling possibility of manipulating the details to fit some narrative of illegal border crossing.
Fudging the paperwork.
It stinks of them trying to cover their asses for grabbing an American citizen. I mean, it has to be.
It looks that way.
And thankfully, some Arizona officials saw through this bullshit. Governor Katie Hobbs, she didn't mince words, tweeting, "This is completely unacceptable. I will be in contact with at DHS.gov and expect immediate answers for their wrongful detention of an American citizen." Good for her.
Yeah, and Attorney General Chris Mays echoed that outrage, calling it wholly unacceptable and demanding answers from IC. So this wasn't just some bureaucratic hiccup that went unnoticed. People noticed. But it's more than just one outrageous case, right? I mean, advocates like Randy Perales from the Organizing Institute for Democracy, they understand the chilling effect this has. If they can grab a citizen, hold him for 10 days based on what looks like a coerced signature and, contradictory information, who among us is safe?
Exactly.
Perales hit it hard. It's appalling. It's disheartening. It's saddening. It's sickening to see our rights being stripped away. They're taking action and asking questions later. Why are you talking to somebody if they haven't done anything wrong to ask them for their ID?
Perez highlights a crucial point there. This creates an environment where enforcement just seems to take precedence over the fundamental rights of citizenship. The presumption of innocence, just like totally absent.
This wasn't a mistake. It felt like a demonstration of power. A system prioritizing arrests over truth. Jose Hermosillo was collateral damage in their relentless pursuit of numbers. Okay, so they'll snatch citizens. But what about folks who aren't citizens, even those here legally? Doesn't get any less insane, does it?
No, it really doesn't.
The danger, though, Sending someone to El Salvador, especially with those prisons, is potentially a death sentence.
It absolutely can be. And the cruelty just keeps escalating. There were Venezuelan women put on a deportation flight. And get this, they were lied to about where they were going. Yeah, told they were going to Venezuela, their home country. But the plane landed in El Salvador.
No way.
Can you imagine the terror and disorientation? And then the Salvadoran authorities refused to take them.
Oh, my God.
So they were flown all the way back to detention in the U.S., along with a Nicaraguan man who was also on the flight. The psychological trauma of that is just unimaginable.
That's psychological torture, plain and simple.
And reports from these women also allege that officials on the flight tried to coerce men into signing documents falsely admitting gang affiliations.
Of course they did.
It suggests a deliberate effort to manufacture justifications for deportation, even if those justifications were entirely fabricated. Just making shit up.
It's like they had a quota to fill for El Salvador or something, and they were willing to lie and bully to make it happen. Then you have Kilmar Abrego Garcia, Maryland resident, married to a U.S. citizen, and he had protected status under the Convention Against Torture since 2019, specifically preventing his deportation to El Salvador.
Right. That protection is supposed to be ironclad.
Yet he was mistakenly deported to CCOT. Mistakenly. Their word.
ICE admitted in court filings that it was an administrative error. An error.
An error that sends someone protected by international treaty to a potential torture situation.
Okay. The Convention Against Torture protects individuals from being returned to a country where they face a substantial risk of torture. Abrego Garcia had that protection, yet it was just disregarded.
And what was the supposed evidence linking him to MS-13? This is mind-blowing. Wearing a Chicago Bulls hat and hoodie while looking for work outside a Home Depot in 2019.
A Bulls hat. Seriously.
That's it. Plus some vague, unverified claim from some confidential informant about a gang in Long Island, New York, a place Abrego Garcia had never even lived.
So zero connection.
Zero. A federal judge, Paula Sinas, called this evidence garbage. Her word, garbage.
Yeah, Judge Sinas clearly recognized how flimsy, how utterly baseless this was. Yet despite this, and despite ICE admitting their error, the Trump administration didn't immediately fix it, didn't bring him back.
They didn't. And Vice President J.D. Vance even amplified the baseless gang allegations on social media, doubling down.
Doubling down on the lie even after admitting the mistake. It's appalling.
The news coverage at the time rightly questioned the legality and the sheer injustice of it all. I mean, how could Abrego Garcia possibly contest these accusations from inside a Salvadoran prison?
He couldn't. And the U.S. government stance was essentially, not our problem anymore. He's gone. Tough luck.
This sets such a dangerous precedent. Legal experts were warning that if the government can deport someone in error without any real repercussions, without fixing it, that logic could potentially be applied to U.S. citizens too.
Exactly. The lack of due process, the lack of accountability in these cases is deeply, deeply concerning. If they can do it by error to him,
then who's next? It's deportation by any flimsy excuse they can find. Tattoos, hats, maybe just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Remember that Daniel Ramirez Medina case? The DACA recipient?
Oh, yeah, where ICS was accused of actually doctoring his statement to suggest gang ties.
Exactly. This isn't just incompetence. It feels like a deliberate strategy. Get rid of as many people as possible. Legality be damned.
These cases, taken together, they really paint a picture of a system where the drive for enforcement for numbers just overrides fundamental principles of due process and basic human rights.
And it wasn't just people at the border or in the asylum system who were targeted. Oh, no. They went after legal residents, even tourists. Take Suguru Onda, Japanese PhD student at Brigham Young University in Utah, married, 5 kids, living here legally for years on a student visa.
Right, doing everything by the book.
Totally.
Yeah.
Suddenly, his visa revoked because of an alleged criminal history.
And that criminal history turned out to be what?
2 speeding tickets and a dismissed fishing citation.
Speeding tickets. And a fishing ticket that was dismissed. That's grounds for tearing apart a family and ending someone's academic career.
Apparently. Unbelievable, right? Onda himself was shocked. He said, I think it's unfair. At least they should notify us or reach out to us or give us some explanation, but there's nothing. And he added, I know I'm not alone, and lots of international students was affected by this visa termination.
His lawyers suspected that this might be due to an automated system, like some AI or algorithm blindly flagging any interaction with law enforcement, no matter how minor, without any human review.
An algorithm ruining lives.
Which would align with the Trump administration's well-documented push for faster, increased deportations. Just speed it up. Don't check the details.
So a PhD student, a father of 5, potentially deported over speeding tickets and a drop fishing ticket. What kind of warped priorities are at play here? It's either monumental incompetence or a system so fixated on deportation numbers that basic common sense has just gone completely out the window.
It also really highlights the potential dangers of relying too heavily on these automated systems without adequate human oversight, especially when you're dealing with complex legal statuses and people's lives.
And it gets even more Kafkaesque, like truly bizarre. 2 German teenagers, Charlotte Pohl and Maria Lepere, 19 and 18.
Okay.
On a backpacking trip, valid ESTA travel waivers, land in Honolulu, Hawaii. Ready for vacation?
Sounds normal.
They're denied entry. Why? Because they didn't pre-book all their hotels for a 5-week trip.
Wait, what? Backpackers often don't pre-book everything. That's kind of the point, flexibility.
Exactly. But apparently, wanting flexibility as backpackers made them suspicious of intending to work illegally, despite zero evidence.
Yeah.
Oh, and mentioning they did some online freelance work back home made it worse.
That's insane. The ESTA is for tourists. Denying entry based on flexible travel plans seems like a gross misapplication of its entire purpose.
Tell me about it, but it gets worse. They were interrogated for hours, handcuffed.
Handcuffed. Teenage tourists.
Yes, subjected to full-body scans and strip searches.
Oh, come on.
Given prison uniforms and locked up overnight in a federal detention facility.
Teenage girls on vacation treated like hardened criminals.
The next morning, deported in handcuffs. Pohl described it as surreal and humiliating.
That case just illustrates how broadly suspicion could be cast. Even on individuals who seemingly pose zero threat and were following the required procedures for entry, it's paranoia as policy.
It's a pattern, right? It's absolutely a pattern. American citizen gets lost. Detained. Asylum seeker has tattoos. Detained, almost deported to hell. PhD student gets a speeding ticket. Visa revoked. Tourists don't pre-book all their hotels. Handcuffed and deported. The reasons are illogical, trivial, but the consequences are devastating. And now they're openly targeting people for their political views. The crackdown on international students involved in pro-Palestinian campus activism is chilling. It's a whole other level.
Yeah, the arrest of Mahmoud Khalil, a Palestinian student activist at Columbia University, and Trump's subsequent post on Truth Social are particularly alarming. He openly stated that this was the first arrest of many to come, labeling these students pro-terrorists.
He literally used his platform, Truth Social, to brag about arresting a student activist and vowed to continue doing so, equating support for Palestine with terrorism. Following my previously signed executive orders, ICE proudly apprehended and detained Mahmoud Khalil, a radical foreign pro-Hamas student on the campus of Columbia University. This is the first arrest of many to come.
Wow. Proudly.
Proudly. And he goes on, if you support terrorism, including the slaughtering of innocent men, women, and children, your presence is contrary to our national and foreign policy interest, and you are not welcome here. We expect every one of America's colleges and universities to comply. This is straight-up authoritarianism, using deportation as a weapon to silence dissent. Full stop.
This represents a significant escalation where immigration enforcement is being explicitly linked to the suppression of political speech. It's incredibly dangerous territory. The sources, as always, are in the show notes. Please go read them, see it for yourself. And if you want to support the kind of work we do here, the hard-hitting analysis, the truth-telling, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/theneutralground.
We really appreciate your support.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.